Hi everybody, and welcome to the launch event of the Angel Investing Report 2020. Every 2 years we are asking Austrian Business Angels what they invest, how they invest, and why they invest in startups. And today is the day where we can finally present you the results of this study. I am Laura, the Managing Director of the Austrian Angel Investors Association. We are a private angel investor network in Austria with over 200 members, and we are mainly focused on connecting our members, connecting with startups, and also on education. And what's most important for us is also to strengthen the startup ecosystem in Austria and also to position it internationally. We teamed up this year with the AWS to create this report. And next to me, there is Karina.
Hi everyone, and welcome also from my side. So my name is Karina, as Laura just mentioned. I'm the program manager of AWS I2 Business Angels, the independent matching service for startups and investors. We were established in 1997 and currently have more than 420 investors on board. So different to the AIA, we are a public network of angel investors. And we believe that we should really put more awareness on angel investing in Austria, and that's why we created this angel investing report.
Yeah, well, in the past few months, we got asked a lot of questions. How did angel investors invest in the crisis? Did they invest at all? And what can startups expect in terms of funding in 2021? And today, I hope we can at least answer a few of these questions and also give you a good overview about the status quo in Austria. But to go one step back first, what are angel investors and why are they especially important in Austria?
Yeah, so I think Austrian angel investors are among the most important players in a startup ecosystem because they are really crucial for the early stage funding or for the funding lifecycle of startups. Next to the family, friends and fool, they are among the first who provide capital, but not only capital. They advise founders with their advice, they give them relevant contacts, and they really help the startup to move forward. And of course, we know that in Austria, or especially in Europe, we see money is not always there. So we have a really good public funding system, but I think only if the public and the private, in this case, angel investors, work together, we can create a good startup ecosystem.
Yeah, that's completely correct. And that's also not the first time we're conducting this report. We already have the results from 2018. And I think it's especially interesting to compare those 2 years and to see the growth of the startup ecosystem and of the angels. And this is not just a report for angel investors. It's really relevant for all startups out there to know how are angel investors thinking, what are they doing, and how should you present yourself to an angel investor. And I think it's also especially important to have numbers and also to show and raise awareness with those numbers, because now it's possible for us to internationally benchmark, and also for everybody who's out there and wants to use these numbers, please feel free and include them in your studies and also in your papers. And well, we're already coming to this year's report presentation. What's on the agenda for today, Karina?
First, maybe let me give you a quick background how many participants we have before we start with the agenda. So we asked all our angels in our networks, and we got 133 responses, which is quite amazing, we think. But we really got on their nerves that they respond. They did, and we believe that 2020 was a really exciting year because we had Corona. Of course, it's not positive, but it was a record year in investing. According to Brutkasten and Trending Topics, there was more than 250 or approximately 250 million euros invested in startups. And with this report, we also want to find out, more about the business angels and which role they play. And now I hand back to you, Laura.
Yeah, we also see this as a great addition to the Austrian Startup Monitor, going deeper into early stage funding and really providing a great picture what is happening there. And one thing is certain already, we need more angel investors in Austria, and we are really sure that there are more people out there who have the capital, who have the expertise, and also the networks to support young founders and really to invest into tomorrow's generation. And yeah, now we're coming to the angel report and to the agenda.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so what do we have on the agenda today? So first we will give you insights in a typical Austrian angel investor. Where does he or she live? How old is he or she? Just some general data. Before we get a deeper look in the investment facts and habits, how much do they invest, ticket sizes and stuff like this. Then we have I think really exciting topic coming up, the impact of COVID. And of course also we want to see what the angel investors in Austria think about 2021. And we will conclude this event with a roundtable discussion with, we have 4 expert guests, and together with Laura we will discuss the future of angel investing. So yeah, stay tuned, and now let's deep dive into the topic.
Yeah, we're starting with the typical Austrian angel investor. Who are they? As you can see here, the typical angel investor didn't really change since 2018. He's still surprise male. He's between 45 and 54 years old, and he's usually based in Vienna. And yeah, we will also in the roundtable go deeper in what does that mean for the angel investing scene, and what can we expect or can do to also reach more female investors. But I think now we just more or less focus on the status quo and discuss the situation later.
Yeah, it's really not a surprise, I guess,
No,
that there are
sadly.
still only 5 females in this chart. So we really hope that in 2022 there are more females there. Yeah, that's what I have to say.
Yeah, maybe we both can also convince more women to
Yeah.
join angel investor.
We should do that. All right, let's go on to the personal traits. So here what's really interesting is that we see new angels coming in. So you can see 5% only started less than a year ago, which I personally find really interesting because last year, was mainly the pandemic, and we had a lockdown, and it was harder to meet people in person. So it's I'm really happy about the 5% who started off, as well as the 23% whose experience are between 1 and 3 years, so also quite new. I think we see a great development here, more angels coming in, and that's great. And yeah, we should continue that, I guess. And next to money, angels support their founders by giving them strategic advice. So 76% answered that they regularly have meetings with founders where they advise them strategically, as well as opening up networks, new contacts. I think that's really the major asset of having a business angel on board. So here I would say it's not really also quite surprising what we see.
Yeah, I think this year it was especially important to get support of a network, to also have a network, which is also especially important for investors to conduct investments, really to have like a network of trust. And we also see like emotionally support was also really important. I think when I ask like members of my network what they're doing the whole day, they were basically, I have to support the founders, I have to call him, I have to tell him that life is great. That was basically, what they told me in the first 3 months of the pandemic last year. And but now looking into the portfolio of angel investments. So usually an angel investor holds between 1 to 5 portfolio startups, which is not that much, but I think it's also a great number to have an overview and really to have the time to support angel investment, support their portfolio companies basically. The great majority has 1 to 5 investments. And what we think was really surprising and interesting was that a large number, it's 69%, made already investments abroad, so outside Austria, basically. Doing this mostly, 55% did that together with an foreign co-investor. So we see here again, it's really important to know somebody to invest together. What did you experience, Karina?
Yeah, basically actually the same thing, business angels, they tend to invest more in their region because, which makes sense, of course, also because they have their networks here. But it's really important, I guess, also for later stage investments that business angels are connected, not only in Austria, but maybe in the European landscape, because it just makes things easier if you're connected. And that's why I think Europe as a whole should work together more closely compared to the US or Asia. I think that's really one thing we should do more.
Yeah, I also feel so, and especially when it comes to later stage funding, I think we all know we have a bit of a lack in Austria, so I think it's really relevant to have international contacts when it also comes to later stage or like raising a Series A with an international VC, which leads us to VC funding, where we also, I think it's quite interesting that 65% of all angel investors we ask, they are not invested in a VC fund. Like they focus on investing on startups themselves, which can be explained that also ticket sizes are rising if you want to invest in a VC fund. And I think it's also more about control or having like really supporting your own invested startups, having your 5 portfolio companies, speaking to them, supporting them. I think that's also kind of the beauty of angel investments.
I guess so, yeah, I totally agree. And it's really, in my network, investors respond to me that they like working with motivated founders. They like to support young people, and that's mainly why they do it, not because they would need the money or anything. But still, it some kind of surprised me that 65% didn't even at all invest in a VC fund, because somehow it's also supporting a startup ecosystem, but maybe it could also be that money is bound a little bit longer when you invest in a VC fund. And Laura, you should invest your 500K from your bank account.
That would be so easy. I would probably have like 5 portfolio companies, because now we're coming to the ticket sizes.
Yeah, that's
How
right.
much startups could I afford with my 500K actually?
Yeah. So what we see here is, I would say, an interesting development compared to 2018. So the light blue are 2018 and the dark blue are 2020 numbers. So actually we see that ticket sizes are growing, with 33% being between 50K and 100K. And I think that's an interesting development, right, Laura?
Yeah, I think so, the same, because we will also later speak about the stages where angel investors prefer to come in. And we really see a change here, and we also will go deeper about the changing nature of angel investments in our roundtable later.
Yeah, maybe also an interesting fact here. In the European average, a business angel approximately invests 25K. So we are slightly higher in Austria, I would say.
Yeah, so Austrian angel investors really doing quite large tickets actually.
Yeah, but give us the picture.
Yeah, what's going on? Investment facts and habits. So we're seeing here the investment phase, which we just also described. Money tends to flow more nowadays into early stage, into seed stage, and also into early stage and market stage. So at market stage, usually the MVP is more than completed. There's also already some traction, and we see angel investors really like this stage. And pre-seed, which was like back in the days, the typical angel investment stage, tends to be a bit less the favor. And I think, it's really interesting. So we have larger ticket sizes and a later investment stage. So basically wondering who is investing in pre-seed startups now?
Good question. I guess there are some public support programs who are helping the pre-seed startups grow and come up. But of course, not everybody can get it. So I think it's really important that startups from the early stage on think about maybe also creating revenue pretty soon, because that's what we see in our network, that angel investors really want to see some first pilot customers, revenue, like I said, they want to have a USP. So it's really, going away from the pre-seed phase, like really from the early stages on, where you would think, okay, I just start out, let's see what happens. But it's an interesting trend. So maybe bootstrapping would also be an option. Not for everybody, of course, but there are programs who support pre-seed.
Yeah, I think it's not negative or positive. It's just more or less a change. And we also asked the angel investors at how many startups they are looking each year. And the finding was they're looking between 1 and 25 startups. So with looking, we mean like really looking deeper, having a call, conducting some research. And I think that's not that much. It's just like maybe 2 startups each month. And I think as a founder, it's really important to stand out and be one of the 25, maximum 25 startups the angel investor was looking on. And if they're interested in you, it can go really fast. So we have the typical time from the first talk to the investment is just 1 to 3 months. So, and that's for 64%, so it's a large number. And yeah, as I just said, if you reach out, you can get an investment really, really fast, which also the beauty of angel investors, maybe compared to VCs, where it can take slightly more time.
Yeah, but I think maybe we should also say that, last year it was the pandemic. We had Corona. I guess there were also a lot of bridge rounds for financing where the money had to flow quick because otherwise liquidity was out, and then the startup would have to close. So maybe, we see it in 2022 how this changed, but it's really cool to see that it can go really fast if you have a business angel on board and if they trust you. I guess it's a good thing.
Yeah, especially follow-on rounds where basically everything is set.
Yeah, definitely.
But how are investors investing? Are they investing together? What did we find out here?
Yeah, you ask good questions. So I can tell you that compared to 2018, where 66% of angel investors prefer to invest in a syndicate rather than alone, it has changed to 59% who prefer investing in a syndication right now in 2020. And in terms of acting as a lead investor or a co-investor, in 2018 we have 56% who act more often as a co-investor than a lead investor. And now we have 65%. So we can see here that the number of co-investors is rising, but the number of syndication is going down. So that's interesting, right, Laura?
Yeah, we didn't really find an explanation for this, for the correlations of these 2 findings. So also, if you have an explanation for this, please let us know. Maybe just more investors are investing together as a syndicate, and so we have more co-investors and less syndication. And I think with alone, also people meant investing maybe with 2 or 3 other angel investors and not in a big syndicate with like 20 investors. So that could also be partly an explanation for this. But yeah, as I just said, we are also curious what you think about these developments.
Yeah, that's right.
So when looking at the investment criteria, what are investors looking the most at when they look at their startup? We were here looking at the founding teams and found out commitment and motivation is basically everything. And it's more important also to look at that soft skills than having like management or leadership competence, which is still important, but compared to the soft skills, it's not that relevant. Yeah, sadly, we have diversity with only 10%. So it's still true if there are 2 male guys standing out there who are really motivated and committed, they will get the funding, basically. And we all know diverse teams are performing better, especially in the long run. So I think it's also a relevant point to also discuss this later at the roundtable.
Yeah, definitely. What surprised me was that soft skills are really highly valued. Of course, that's true, but it also means for startup founders that you don't have to have the best university degree or anything. Angel investors, of course, as we all know, invest in the team than rather in the product or in the service. So not really surprising, but it's a good thing, I would say.
Yeah, we also ask more questions. What's most important for them when they look at the business idea? Here, 78% were looking at the USP. So as you just said, it's just important to stand out and be different than your competitors and also be clear why you're different. And we also ask about the market factors, what they look at. 62% stated that they look at the market environment and the competition, which also basically is related to USP. And when we ask them what are they looking in terms of their portfolio, they stated that they look most, or 56% are looking mainly at the expected return on investment. So that's basically what they mean with a fit to their portfolio. And yeah, which leads me to exits.
That's right. I mean, as we all know, angel investing is also, besides being really motivating and
just wonderful.
Yes, wonderful. It's also a risky business, but we are especially happy about the fact that almost 60% already had one successful exit, because I mean that's 60%, Laura. I think that's really great, and I hope that all the investors who had a successful exit will reinvest their money. Yeah, that's right. But of course, to all the upsides, there are downsides, and 40% of the investors who responded to our questionnaire already had to write at least one stake off. So, you know, it's as I said, highly risky. It's not.
You have up and downs.
That's right. You have up and downs, exactly like in a startup life cycle, I guess. Yeah, let's come to the successful exits and return on investments. So here we see a slight decline. What's interesting is that the majority, at 32.5%, reported their return on investment on their exit being less than 3 times. Also interesting, I found, is that 13% had a ROE of a factor 20. Laura, I think that's really interesting. So we see that there's a decline on the one side, but the really successful investors with the 20 factor were doing better than in 2018. So yeah, that's good, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting development. So we're having larger investment sizes, later investments, and we're having kind of, lower multiples in general, especially the really important in angel investors, they stay in really important. So I'm also like curious what our roundtable guests, especially the angel investors, we say about it. And next we will look at the verticals where the portfolio companies in. We also have a slide later on where you will see the most interesting verticals now, but for now that's where the portfolio companies in. And 53% of the portfolio companies are in the software. We have health tech next, internet and e-commerce, fintech, deep tech, and consumer goods. And basically the top 5 also stayed the same compared to 2018, just the order and the dominance is a bit different. For example, 2 years ago, software was at 47%, followed by internet and e-commerce, which stayed the same, but was there on the second place. And health really, increased because it was at 36% in 2018. And also fintech is on the rise. It rose from 27% to 33. So I would say like fintech and health tech are the rising stars in the verticals the investors already invested in.
That's right. Are you surprised?
Not really, actually. I think it just comes with the situation, especially this year.
That's right. I mean, we will see it later on. But I was surprised about the fintech, I have to say. But yeah. Angel investors not only invest in Austria, but also maybe in the German-speaking area, and maybe there are some really good fintechs out there. And health tech, of course, is always a big topic. But it's also, I always have the feeling that health tech and life science is really a different, how should I say, network within business angels. So it's really, and you have, longer development phases, so it's really interesting to see, and it's more of a risk, I would say. But
especially in biotech, and I think you really have to bring expertise to the table.
Yeah, that's right. So good to see. Okay, now we will come to the impact of Corona and the prognosis of the angel investors for the year 2021. So let me start with the COVID Startup Hilfsfonds. Quite early during the lockdown in May, the Austrian government made it possible that the invested money by private investors was doubled by the public money. So we had the COVID Startup Hilfsfonds established, and I think it's really nice to see that 58% of the angels who responded in our questionnaire had at least one portfolio startup who received the doubling amount. It was a really nice instrument because you could invest up to 800K and get the amount doubled. So I think liquidity was really great, especially after the time or during the lockdown and the pandemic. And 40% of the angel investors responded that it had a great impact on them. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it was really necessary that there was really a really fast movement, especially also in comparison to other European countries. For example, Germany and also France were really fast. And I also felt like we were also like really standing strong in the crisis with this initiative. And I think it also really helped the angel investors to feel a bit more safer, as like risk was also decreased with the Startup Hilfsfonds to invest.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, there are more aids gonna come, like the Runway Fund. And I think, I was also surprised because even when talking to German business angel networks, or also in France, they also had an amazing package. We were really one of the first who put it out there. So that's good. And at least we could support startups here.
Yeah, and it was a lot of money deployed with this measurement into the startup, and really fast. And that leads us to our lucky number. 77% of angel investors had invested in at least one startup in 2020, which is really a lot. So we have asked 133 business angels, and 77% had invested in a startup. So I think that's really a cool number, and I'm also really happy about it.
I mean, it's almost 80%. It's really nice to see. Of course, you can say, okay, maybe they were bridge rounds for liquidity. It was not a planned investment, but still, it's a good number.
Yeah, and when looking at the verticals which are now really interesting for angel investors, we had nearly 50% health, followed by 40% deep tech, which is also changed to the verticals we showed you before. So I think like deep tech startups and health tech startups and also fintech startups will have also a really great year in 2021 because the interest is on your side and hopefully the money as well. Which brings us, because we basically wanted to include a question: have you invested in your portfolio, or have you really actively searched for new startups? Because the investment volume was really, really high, and also a lot of studies show it was high. But I think it's a large difference if it was invested in new startups or it was like basically invested in the portfolio to help them to overcome the crisis. And I think the findings are really surprising. You also have to think angel investors can basically choose if they invest, and also when they invest, in comparison also to VC funds, which have to invest for sure at a certain point. So I think that's also part of the reason why 53% just thought, okay, I'm supporting my existing portfolio, helping them out of the crisis, doing bridge rounds.
Yeah, but I mean, for me, it was really surprising that also 47% said, okay, I'm also gonna check out new investments, because there was like uncertainty in the industry and you didn't know at the beginning of the lockdown, how is Corona gonna affect everything. So we heard at the beginning that almost 25% are new angels. So I guess they were among the most of the 47% who were looking into new startups. And I think also in the maybe 2022, depends on when we do the next report, we will see that more focus here is also made on new investments. But it really, it made me actually really happy.
Yeah, I think also a lot of new angel investors especially saw a large opportunity, because maybe the valuations were a bit lower, and also there were startups where you usually can't get in, especially as a new angel investor. Maybe there were more opportunities, and I think also a lot of people started angel investing in 2020, and we all know also from past crises are like winners are made in crisis, so maybe that's also reason for these findings. But yeah, also let us know what you think about this particular thing. Have you invested more, or have you looked more on new investments or on your portfolio? And yeah, we also asked the investors what were the challenge, especially when investing in new startups. And as also Karina mentioned, the insecurity in the industry was a real challenge, and also the quality of the startups. I didn't really thought about that first, but what do you think about the quality?
I think, in my experience, it was hard to find really the suitable startups, who are at the phase where you say, okay, it's interesting for our network that we introduce them to. So the quality, I'm not sure, but it was hard to find the suitable startups which are ready for an investment. It was hard at that time, I guess, for many startups to find pilot customers, to get their first revenue. Many of them couldn't do networking, they couldn't go to clients, so maybe sales also was a hard topic. And yeah, that's from my experience. I don't know how it was on your side.
Yeah, I think also angel investors got stricter when they were looking at pitches, when they were looking at pitch decks. And I think also, especially in the beginning, maybe the quality was also assessed in a different way when you meet somebody digital. Yeah. For example, I don't know if I assess the quality of somebody in the same way, because I think personal interaction is everything, and it's also building trust.
Definitely. I think it's really different from what we all know. If you have a Zoom call, you can't really assess the people's personalities.
And we're investing in the team, so.
That's right. I mean, you can assess their qualities if they can mute themselves and unmute themselves. But maybe we see also some development here. Maybe some more rounds are closed, not being, next to each other. Although I think it's really important.
Yeah, also 20% had difficulties in participation talks on Zoom, and also if you invest with investors abroad. And I think maybe it was just harder, and supporting on the portfolio was just sometimes more important. Yeah. But yeah, coming to the outlook for 2021, what can we expect?
Yeah, so we can expect good things on the one side. I find it very incredible, and hopefully it becomes true, that 87% intend to invest into at least one startup in 2021. So that's almost 90%. I think that's a great number.
It's a lot. It's nearly everybody who answered
our survey. Yeah, so that's, I think, a really good development, and it should be good for the startups out there. And looking deeper, so from the 87% who intend to invest, 30% said that they plan to invest at least 75K to up to 150K. So that's quite, I would say, a good number, and larger ticket sizes than the average European business angel does. And 10% of the business angels plan to invest more than 500K, which is a lot. It's really a lot, and it's cool that we see the money, the private equity distributing in the startup ecosystem, I would say.
Yeah, I think it's also really cool and really surprising, and a positive outlook for 2021. We all know the money is there, it just has to go into startups and not in other asset classes. And yeah, we will doing our best to connect investors, connect them with co-investors, do all what is possible and doable to connect them with startups, educate new interested investors, and well, I think we're getting there.
Yeah, definitely. I think you could already see in February, after the holiday break during Christmas, there was a lot of engagement, and I think it should continue like this. And I have a feeling that the first successful businesses are starting out, coming from the crisis, and it's really great to see. But there are always downsides. So unfortunately, 31% of the investors think that COVID affects their portfolio startups long term in terms of financial difficulties, with 31% stating it's more likely. And 24% responded with yes, there will be definitely long-term impact on the financial state of their startups, which, of course, I mean, if you compare it to not only startups, but in general, I think all the lockdowns and everything, it was really challenging for almost all the industries. And being a startup or a traditional company, COVID is just really, I don't know. I hope it soon will get better and we will all be, living life like before Corona.
Yeah, me as well, and I hope these assumptions are not becoming true and we still don't know which, like, also public measurements we can expect also in 2021 and the years which will follow. So, I mean, for now, these are just predictions and we just hope it's not gonna get true. And we also didn't start that many bankruptcies actually this year.
Yeah.
So hopefully we will stay on track.
Definitely. There's still all the Corona aids. Let's see when they terminate, how it's going to develop. But let's be positive and optimistic about the future.
Which is already also bringing us to the end of the presentation of the Angel Investors report. We have the key findings here. We will also send it out later, so don't worry if you can't read everything right now. But yeah, Karina, what was like your the key takeaway for you, the most interesting finding actually?
I wouldn't say finding, but I really like the number of the 87% who intend to invest into a startup in 2021, because I think that really shows that angel investors are really important for startups here in Austria, that they are there, they want to contribute, and that what amazed me, because it's still, I mean, Corona is not over, still we have lockdowns and the pandemic is not yet out, but I really like this and it's really cool and it shows the positive development of the business angels here in Austria.
Yeah, I think it's also showed us that it's really important to stick together as a community, to stay strong. And yeah, I think what was also really interesting was the finding about the split, about the support of the portfolio companies, and also the percentage of were more focused on new startups. That was, like, for me, basically the most interesting finding, and that was really something I didn't also see in other reports, and we really wanted to have this question.
Yeah. That's right.
Part of the survey.
Yeah, it's really cool. I mean, also during uncertain times, there are people focusing on supporting new businesses. I also really like this fact and figure. Yeah.
But without all our partners, that wouldn't have been possible. As Karina mentioned, we had to convince 133 business angels because we all know surveys are exhausting, they take time, but I can't just mention, or I have to mention it really often. It's so important. Please let us know, what you think, and also support our study also in 2 years from now. And thank you to the partners. You see them here. Really, they were so active in sharing the survey on social media and now helping us to also support the launch event, and will hopefully help us to that everybody also gets the report, which will be also available today after the roundtable.
Yeah, that's right. Okay.
So then, coming back to the studio.
Okay, so Laura, we heard a lot of key facts, numbers. What is your takeaway for the AIA for this year, next year? Where are you going? What are your plans?
Yeah, maybe to sum up, we have higher investment sizes, we have later investment stage, we have lower multiples. So I was thinking, what can we do and how can we use these numbers also in the AIA, and also giving the people the opportunity to also see a high number of new startups and also see a high quality, or see an increasing quality of the startups we're showing to them. This year we will really focus on connecting startup with angel investors. We will start next week already with the Startup World Cup, where we tour through Austria. Always 3 federal states will together, and we will have the best startups out of 3 several states of Austria pitching at 3 sessions, which are the pre-events, and then we have the finale in Vienna, finding the so-called best Austrian startup. And I think it's more really about giving startups visibility, connecting them with angel investors, that we have a good ongoing investment activity also now. I hope in the last fully digital months we will experience, hopefully ever in our life, but you never know. And also international activity, we also increase our focus on connecting investors in Austria with international co-investors that also outside of Austria or startups outside of Austria can get investments by Austrian Business Angels. And we will also have the Vienna Up coming up. It's 2 weeks of startup experience in the end of April and the beginning of March, where it's 2 weeks filled digital program for international startups, international investors, and everybody who wants a glimpse or get a glimpse what's going on in Austria. We will host their event called Investor Summit, also connecting startups, connecting investors, connecting basically everybody, which is also necessary for a functioning startup ecosystem. And we will also keep our focus on education, raising awareness for angel investments. So yeah, if you want to become an angel investor, just reach out. We know how to help you basically. But what's your plan? You are also part, I guess, of the Vienna Up.
Yes, I mean, that's right. You mentioned it already. It's really hard for the investors community to just be connected digitally, because we believe, or what our members always say, that the most important factors are also to get to know the other business angels, to talk to them, to really share their knowledge. So yeah, you said it, until soon, hopefully. We will also do that online, of course. We will have our so-called investor dinners online, with unfortunately no dinner, but with startup pitches from different verticals, areas. We will also tour through the different counties. Like, we will have different events in different states. Like, for example, for the Business Angel Award, which we give every year. But you also mentioned the Vienna Up. It's I think we are doing the most central matchmaking event between startups, corporates, and investors on the Connect Day. It's on the 3rd of May. It's open for everybody. You can already sign up. We will pre-select startups for you, and you can also have the chance to talk to international potential co-investors from the US or from Asia or from Europe. So basically, I think that's a really good chance if you want to be connected. We have the Business Angel Summit coming up. It's always in Kitzbühel. It's on the 9th of July, but we still, how should I say, we have not decided yet, because it's unplannable if we can do it in person or digital, but please save the date. I think it's also a really cool opportunity to get to know Austria's leading startups, and of course also the business angel scene in Austria. And yeah, I think you mentioned it already. We're here to help you if you want to start out, if you want to become a business angel, if you want to get access to great startups. Laura and me, we're here. Always reach out to us. And yeah, I think we should move on, right?
Yeah, I think really 2021, it's all about connections, and we're putting a lot of work in also connecting you digitally, which is often a bit harder even than connecting on an event. So I think we all, yeah, Karina and we are doing the best to basically help you out, and also help you establish meaningful connections digitally to startups, to other co-investors, and just to everybody you want to have a connection with. And I'm also looking forward to physical events as the Business Angel Summit or everything else we will also do later this year. And I'm also looking forward to meet you there. And I guess you will also be the first ones who will also be informed what's going on from the program side for us. And yeah, I think now our roundtable guests are already ready. We can already see them on the screen, which is really nice. They look really excited to talk to us soon. And yeah, during the presentation, we have discussed some open points, some open questions, where we will hopefully maybe find an answer now together with our delighted guests. And well, so I think everybody's ready, and we can already start with our roundtable.
Yes, that's right. We will discuss now the future of angel investing. And Laura, please introduce the guests to us.
So I'm really happy to introduce the super business angel and also the AIA board member, Hansi Hansmann. Hi.
Hi, good afternoon, everybody. To introduce myself with a few words, I'm business angel. I started to do my first investments in 2010 And until 2017, I did more than 50 startup investments. Then I stopped doing new investments, more or less stopped. I have done one or the other investment since because it was just too much. Half of my 50 startup investments are lead investments. I still have a portfolio of 32 active companies. That means it's 18 less than what I have in 2017. And out of these 18, because it could also be an interesting part of the statistic, I had to close down 8 and 10 were exits. Among these exits, there were 3 quite successful, very successful exits. As we all know, Rantastic, Spock, and My Sugar. Well, that's it more or less. I have been rewarded. I think it was in 2016, Best European Early Stage Investor. And I'm board member and president of the Austrian Angel Investors Association. Thanks.
Yeah, so happy to have you, and also really interested to hear more about your experience and combine your experience with the fundings. And next we have Karin Kreutzer, a business angelina and also a loyal member of the Austrian Angel Investors Association, and also a frequent guest to all our webinars.
Hello, good afternoon. Yeah, I'm Karin Kreutzer, and I like a lot in the world, and especially the spirit of entrepreneurship and innovation. And therefore, I founded 5 years ago with my husband, Outmes Invest. And the main focus of Outmes is to invest in startups, but also, but only as co-investors. And we do this in different ways. Directly via VC fund, via crowdfunding, via stock exchanges, yeah? And all about these different ways of investing you can read in our book, Startup Investing, a book we published a year ago with more than 20 authors in it, all experts of the startup ecosystem. And one chapter is also from Hansi, and yeah, thanks Hansi again. And yeah, the end of the advertisement.
It's really a nice book also if you're just starting out as an angel investor, because basically the whole Austrian startup ecosystem contributed to this book, and you can find everything from the first investment to the exit. And yeah, I could also really recommend it. And now from the startup side, we're really happy to welcome Felix Oswalt. He's founder of Go Student, an edutech company, and he's just raised an amazing funding round just a few weeks ago.
Hey guys, happy to be here. Yes, we founded the company Go Student a bit more than 5 years ago. The original problem that we want to solve is that a lot of kids, like globally, they lack access to great teachers. I'm sure when you think back of the time when you went to high school, you still remember 1 or 2 really amazing, really inspiring, really enthusiastic teachers. And when you have made this experience, you also know how much of an impact they can have on your future life. So by founding Go Student, we want to connect children in the age of 6 to 19 to world-class teachers, always in a one-on-one setting, always fully virtual. And today, 5 years later, we are already, at least in terms of revenue, the biggest online tutoring company in Europe, and have many more and a lot of very big and ambitious plans for the future.
Yeah, congratulations to this, and happy to have you here and hear also more about your experience. And last but not least, hi, Petra Dobrocka. She's the co-founder and CCO of Bird.
Hi, great to be here. Thank you. Yeah, so Bird is basically an international e-commerce fulfillment network. So we basically connect online retailers with logistics companies across Europe. We were also founded about 5 years ago, so similar age to Go Student. And yeah, we currently cover 5 different European countries, and we have a network of 14 warehouses. Yeah, and I'm looking forward to the discussion.
Yeah, I think we're really excited already. And Well, let's start right to the topic. Especially in the report, we saw a lot of changes in terms of angel investments. And angel rounds, they're getting higher, the ticket size are getting higher, investments are getting later, multiples are getting lower. Maybe Hansi, to go right into the topic, what do you think about like the changing environment of angel investments? Has this just to do with last year's pandemic, or do you think it's more like a general development here?
No, it has very little to do with last year's pandemic, because everything has changed over the last years. When I started to invest as an angel in 2010 with today, there's really a huge change. The main change, I would say, is that everybody has become more professional. The startups and the founders have become more professional, not only because they are second-time founders. I mean, second-time founders or third-time founders are more professional. Even the first-time founders, they prepare themselves much better. They go to others, they can learn how to pitch, they can learn how to do their business plans. They can avoid a number of mistakes which founders in 2010 have been doing. So there's a big difference. Business angels are more professional. They have to be more professional. Venture capitalists are more professional. If I compare 2010 or 2011, when Speed Invest 1 started, a small and tiny venture capital fund, compared with Speed Invest 3, now a 200 million euro fund. I mean, this is unbelievable, this difference. What does that mean? I mean, there's a lot of changes, but I think the most important change, you mentioned that before, is that early stage rounds, seed rounds and early stage rounds have become more expensive, much more expensive. In 2010, it was possible, let's compare it with 100K. With 100K, you could get 10% of a company, because around 1 million euros was more or less the early stage valuation of a tech company. 2013, 2014, it was between 2 and 2.5, maybe 3. And today I've seen a number of early stage investments valuated at 6, 7, 8, up to 10 million euros. What does it mean? A seed round was 300,000 10 years ago, and today it's 1.5 to 2 million euros. And that makes a big difference for a business angel. I cannot imagine that a business angel in general has 10 times more money than what he had 10 years ago. So that means that you get only much smaller percentages of a company if you invest as an angel. And there are a number of solutions for that. One solution would be to invest even earlier. That would be my recommendation, to invest in pre-seed, which is a higher risk, obviously. And maybe you should do a number of smaller tickets in pre-seed and then see where you can add up money, or to syndicate yourself. But the life of business angel has changed completely over the last years. For example, I mentioned before that half of my overall investments are lead investments, at least in the beginning. I couldn't do a lead investment now. A lead investment would mean you have to put in 1 million, 1.5 million. In an early stage round. So that's a huge difference compared to what we had before. And I think business angels will have to adapt to that.
Yeah. We will also come later on to the recommendations what you have for business angel, but we already have 2 smaller tickets in early stage, which is more risky, but hopefully then also more rewarding. I think it would be interesting here to add, maybe Felix, you were recently fundraising. Did you experience similar things, or how do you see the current status of the investing scene, and especially about the angel investing scene?
Yeah, I think Hansi pointed it down very nicely. I think as a business angel nowadays, you either have the choice of investing into the company in a much, much earlier phase. Even in our case, we had a business angel who invested in us half a year before we let in an institutional fund. So try to take more risk as a business angel and invest in the really, really early stages. Then you can still get, I would say, a good amount of ownership of that company. And later on, I think also part of the reason for this development is if you want to build a company today, so let's say you want to build a B2C company, in the European landscape or in any other global landscape, even a B2B company, the amount of capital it requires to build out that company very fast and become a market leader is just enormous, because the competition doesn't sleep. So in every industry, in every field in which you want to open a company, you have much more competition than you had maybe a couple of years ago. So you also you are in need of more capital to become the dominating player and rule that game. And I think the second part that can be very interesting for business angels is, we see it also with the VC firms that are invested in our company, is when you invest as an LP in a fund, and then you try to make direct investments in some of their portfolio companies. So to give you an example, the founders of a marketplace called Home2Go, the founders have also like a vehicle that they use as business angels called NFQ. They invest in funds, and then when they like certain investments out of that fund, they also invest directly into the companies. Yes, they need to accept higher valuations, but on the other hand, the upside potential of these companies is still big enough for this business angel to make a nice return.
Yeah, I think these are really interesting developments, and this is basically also a
Can
argument.
I add something to that? Sorry.
Yeah, of course.
I can only agree to what Felix said, because I'm invested in a number of venture capital funds. And if I would invest more now, that would also be a very ideal way of investing. You see where the fund is investing, and very often it's possible that they do a co-investment together with the fund. What does that mean? You have somebody very professional who's doing all the due diligence, who is doing all the paperwork for you, and you just add money. If this is possible, it's not always possible, but sometimes it's possible. There are some smaller funds that for them, the marketing is real. For example, Calmstorm is doing that, by the way. They offer always co-investments in early stage to their LPs. That's a very, very cool way of investing your money as a business angel.
Yeah, so going back to the 65% of all angel investors not investing into a VC fund yet, maybe that's also an argument to change this decision, and also maybe to consider also to invest in VC funds more, especially maybe smaller funds. So we also have more seed funds currently on the market. So maybe, Karina, we're going right to maybe the opportunities and also the challenges we experience due to these developments.
Definitely. Let me just add that I find it really interesting what Hansi and Felix mentioned, because in our report we saw that investors tend to go into the seed stage and not into the prototype stage, which I find quite interesting, and also that they, invest higher ticket sizes and therefore maybe also get a different valuation. So I think it's quite contrary to the advice you gave us, Hansi and Felix. But yeah, let's go to the challenges and opportunities from all the different perspectives in the coming 2 years. And I would like to start with you, Karin, because there's always this. Yesterday was International Women's Day, and we see that still so many male business angels are there. Maybe you can just tell us your story. How did you start out as a female business angel? Why do you think there are so many women not doing it, and can they do it?
I think the ecosystem is getting more and more popular. But a lot of people think that it's a closed community, only with very rich people, only with males, only with famous people, only with serial startup founders. And I really think that we have to show also normal people like me are welcome into the community, and you can be part of it, and you can invest in a lot of different ways, and you must not be the lead investor to have really a good success,
Yeah,
that's my thinking about the change and the important. And I think a lot of women think that's not their community, but I think there will be a change, because there are a lot of associations, female founders, for example, and also the westdeutschen.com, and I think there will be in a few years, much more business Angelinas.
Yeah, let's hope so. We are really excited for that time to come. So another fact we heard in the report was that diversity doesn't really mean much for a business angel in the founding team. So maybe Petra, when you were raising your first round, did it play a role, or did they just look at you to the co-founders? Like, how was it when you first raised?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. I mean, to be honest, I haven't really thought about it in this way, like where we invested in because we had a female founder. I think when you talk about diversity, it's probably also just the overall group setting that you look at, right? It's not just about females and males, but also about the profiles themselves and how they fit together. And I think from this point of view, we were a really, really good team because we had on the one side the business background, on the other side the technical background. Then I myself had a lot of startup experience coming in. So I think, of course, ideally you do have a diverse team. I think even maybe if the numbers don't show it, I'm not sure if the sample size, unfortunately, is big enough in Austria. But I do think that diverse teams work better. I just don't think it always has to be a mix of women and men. I think it can also just be a good mix of backgrounds, that work together really well. And I think this has been a very good kind of push for us still in the past, even if it wasn't just for investments, but also for other kind of, promotions and other things. It's always good in Austria still to have a female founder. It's still something special, which again could be, seen as something negative because why is it still that special? But yeah, I think at the moment it still brings a lot of attention, which I think should be used.
Mm. Do you agree, Hansi? Do you, if you would invest actively, would you check on diversity of the team, or is it more what we heard in the report?
Well, I always wanted to invest in diverse teams. I have a number of diverse teams in my portfolio companies. I also have pure women teams. But it's not easy because there are not so many, to be quite honest. I mean, you always have to compare the right things, because whenever I read that 90% of the VC money is going to male founders, I mean, that's not bad. The problem is that only 10% or 12% of all founded startups are diverse or women-founded startups. It's not a problem of the VCs. It's a problem of the number of women founding a startup. In my professional career that I had before, was an angel investor when I was running my company. My management team was always at least 50% or more women, because my experience with diverse teams was really exceptionally good. And I know that for some areas, I always would prefer to have women instead of men in general. There are always exceptions, but in general. So I really was looking for diverse teams when I was investing, but it's not easy to find them, to be honest.
How do you
maybe to follow up? So, sorry, just a quick comment on that, because I totally see that. I think there's just not that many female-run startups at the moment, but I do see kind of the opportunity that now, as Felix also mentioned, kind of the Austrian startup scene is evolving, it's maturing. There's more and more companies getting more and more investments. They're hiring a lot of people, right? So you have these companies with, let's say, hundreds or tens of employees who are now getting their first experience. So I think now is a really, really good time to look for the next generation within these employees. Because, I mean, when I look at myself, my background is that I just started working in a startup. I really liked it. And then like 4 years later, I founded my own company. So I think we're not quite there yet, but I think now is really the time to push for this and to show women that it's a really cool thing to do. So I'm quite optimistic there, or at least I hope it will kind of evolve in this direction.
Yeah, I mean, that's great to hear. We are also optimistic. We just hope that it's not going to take too long. But yeah, as you mentioned, Hansi, it's really true with the statistics. But do you have a recommendation of how this could be overcome, this challenge?
Well, I can I can tell you an example, which is 25 years ago when I was running my pharmaceutical company in Spain. And I had a sales team of 150 sales reps visiting doctors in Spain. And at that time, between 95 and 2000, I would say 90 or 95% of all sales reps in Spain were male. And out of my 150 sales reps, 90% were women. They were so exceptionally good, you cannot imagine. Once they realized that they are really good in selling, they were kind of extremely good. The whole industry copied that within 3 or 4 years, the whole industry. But somebody has to go in front of and do something and change something. Mm. Today, I would say more than 50% of sales reps in Spain are female.
Okay, that's good.
In which country was the sale? In which country?
Spain.
Spain, okay, because I think sale is not very, has not a very high level in Austria, yeah? Unfortunately.
Also, I think as a startup founder, you have to sell yourself basically, and also as an investor, quite often you have to sell, not really selling yourself, but and promoting yourself for other co-investors and also for startups, because I think it's also often thought that startups are just sitting there and they're happy for every investor coming by. That's not often the case. You also have to pitch yourself as an investor, and maybe that's also something, which is more difficult for female investors or for men. But I think definitely we hopefully also see some opportunities now with these changes. And maybe if you just heard smaller ticket sizes are the way to go now, maybe that's also an easier case for female investors.
Yeah, that's right. Or,
let me maybe add something to what Felix said before when he said that today it's much more complicated and much more expensive to get attraction in the market. When I invested in Runtastic, which was in 2012, 1 year too late, I would say. In 2011, they didn't let me invest, but they took me in 2012. But they started in 2009, and literally in the first 4 years of the existence of Runtastic, they did not spend €1 in marketing. Can you imagine that? Just because they had a community. Every single day in the whole world, 250 or 300,000 people downloaded the app. Just because of the community, just because friends used it and others had it. This today is totally impossible, totally impossible. Every single download costs you money and not too little. And that's the main reason, because you always are competing against the marketing expenses of other companies, because you need much more money, even in early stage, even to show the first traction. It's not just you have to have a wonderful product. Yes, you have to have a wonderful product. I mean, that's obvious. That's number one. But even if you have a wonderful product, there are others having wonderful products too. So they compete. And how do they compete? They compete via money in marketing, intelligent marketing if possible, but they compete via marketing money. And the more money you have, the more market share you gain. And the faster you gain market share, the higher likely you are the winner of this market and maybe the unicorn. That's the whole game.
Yes.
Would you agree, Felix?
Yes, absolutely. You can even go further. What we see right now in the market, a lot of the VC companies, the top funded companies, they have an unfair advantage of more traditional companies because multiples that they trade are extremely high. So you have a company that has maybe, let's say 50 million in gross revenue, and the company gets traded at a not 10x multiple, but like 40x multiple on the gross revenue. So this company can easily raise new money to acquire a traditional company who is doing really well in the industry, EBITDA positive, but is maybe owned by a private equity fund and only trades at a 2x gross revenue multiple. So just to give you an example from the education industry, there's one really cool education company in Europe called Kahoot. It's even listed on the stock exchange in the Norwegian countries. It had 40 million revenue in 2020, and it is valued on the stock exchange at $5 billion. And it's SoftBank who made a 200 million investment into Kahoot. And actually what SoftBank did, they set kind of a floor of the valuation. So they make sure that the valuation is not dropping below 4 billion. And Kahoot in the last 6 months made 6 or 7 acquisitions already. So they buy in revenue quite cheaply and have this unfair advantage of building a monopoly in their space and closing the door for other companies.
Correct. I know that case. But I mean, coming back to business angels, a business angel in that phase, that's not the life of a business angel. The business angel in Kahoot, he should have been investing in that company probably 5, 6, or 8 years ago. I don't know how this company is. I mean, if we are competing with SoftBank, there's no business angel in the world who's able to compete with SoftBank.
We're just out there at this stage.
That's
but
right.
maybe going into like the verticals, which were like extremely popular. I think Felix and Petra, you hopefully experienced a great time during the crisis. I just hope so, but really interesting to hear your experience. Was it a push for your business, or did you more or less experience, was it the same? Maybe Petra, can you go deeper into in your terms, maybe e-commerce, logistics?
Yeah, sure. So I would say that at the beginning, I think that was the same for everybody, that there was a month of insecurity for everybody where things were canceled, and somehow investors were also a bit unsure what to do with the situation. But since then we have seen massive growth in logistics investments. It's actually quite crazy what has been happening, like what kind of rounds have been raised recently. We see a lot of very positive developments there for us. And I think it's something that was maybe triggered a bit through Corona, but I think it's also gonna stay there in the long term because e-commerce is just gonna grow further and further. So I think we're very, very optimistic also going forward. And once hopefully Corona is gone, but this trend should continue for us.
Yeah, I hope so.
Sorry, yeah.
Yeah, just go ahead, Felix. I just wanted to ask you what you think. So perfect.
Yes. No, I also fully agree. I mean, for us, we saw 2 effects. On the one hand side, parents and families, they are much more willing now towards online education than they were before the pandemic. So we had a lot of parents who told us before Corona, online education, nowhere on earth I'm going to allow this to my child. The child is already spending 10 hours on TikTok and Snapchat. It's the pure devil. And this number dropped after the first lockdown. So now everyone is open to it and open in. Even my grandmother is now using WhatsApp video calls. So this kind of definitely accelerated and changed. But on the other hand, what we saw, which is in general a bit negative, is the demand for tutoring, so for Nachhilfe, actually dropped. So because of school lockdowns, when schools are closed, there's less pressure for kids during that time. And when there's less pressure, then also for a lot of the families, they see it kind of as holidays, or the kids at least see it as holidays, and therefore less search volume for tutoring. So there was also kind of a side effect on that we saw, but we could overcome it by this acceleration of trying it out at least.
I think this is super interesting what's going on, and for every upside there's always basically also a downside. And I think especially for tutoring, maybe it's also just having the physical experience, having somebody sitting next to your child, something really parents really value. Looking forward to what's happening also in the next year. And maybe coming also to international best practices. That's also basically part of the reason why we conducted that report, to benchmark a bit. And we also talked before about the willingness to syndicate, which was going down a bit, and the willingness to invest alone was going up. And at the same time, also co-investments were, please correct me if I'm wrong, co-investments were going up.
Yes.
So how can we compare that? For example, in the US, syndication, bigger syndications like AngelList are extremely popular. Maybe Karin, if you can say something about that. Did you see like trends towards syndications with smaller tickets, like for example, also in Austria, Prime Crowd or the Super Angel Club are offering?
Sorry. Yes. First of all, I like to be a truster, yeah? Especially at Bitpanda via Kaka Incube, yeah? Thanks to Jörg for... and I think syndication is really a very important way in Austria, because the legal formalities are very difficult and very expensive too, yeah, and so you can help the founders to have their busy daily work and not only to do legal things, and also for the investors, you can go in with smaller tickets. And you can have a good basis for exchanging your thoughts with the other investors. Yeah, you are kind of a little bit a confederation, I would say. Yeah, and I think it's really a good thing and a good way to be invested in startups, even with little tickets.
Maybe I can add something to what you said, Karin. I mean, there are several reasons why syndicate. One is, for example, not to have a very complicated cap table. No VC likes 25 small shareholders. So normally you have a syndication and they're all behind one lead investor. But there's also another reason, and I have seen it very often in the UK. You know that we have, in the IR, we have been fighting for years for incentive systems for investors. We still haven't got anything. And I'm always saying we just can copy what exists in other countries, like in UK. They have this EIS or SEIS system where every single person can invest up to £100,000 a year and deduct it directly from the tax papers. That they came to a situation in UK, I think it was 3 years ago, where more than 2 billion private money was invested every year into the startup system. More than VCs, although there's no other European country with more VCs like UK, but the private money was even bigger than that. And the problem of that is that all these people who invest 50 or 100,000, they are not business angels. They may call themselves business angel because they think if I invest in a startup, I'm a business angel.
No.
So the main problem they had was what I'm going to do with this money. So there are a number of syndicates, of clubs, of investment clubs, of angel clubs in UK. I think there are only 15 or 20 in London, as far as I know. And the most important thing they need is a lead investor, because there's more money than enough, but this money is from financial investors who have no clue about startups, and they need one lead investor. And if they find a lead investor, this lead investor can do very big tickets. He can invest 1 million or 2 million or 3 million with 20 angels behind him or 20 small financial investors behind him. This is something that happened in UK and finally led to a situation where they have a huge amount of startups every single year. Maybe on average, the quality of these startups is not that big. As far as what I have seen 3 years ago, the average quality of Austrian startups is a little bit bigger compared to UK. But I mean, only in Shoreditch, there are 25,000 startups. So even if a small percentage of them are really successful, the number of unicorns they're creating is 100 times bigger. Well, I can say 100 times bigger than in Austria because we still do not have a unicorn. Maybe Tutoring is going to be the first one. Might have good chances.
We work on it.
So it's about the volume, the number of startups. You need a huge amount of startups And a certain small percentage of them is going to be really successful. And a small percentage of the successful ones is going to be unicorns. And for that, you need really a huge amount of money. And in UK, they have solved that with syndicating these financial investments from these 50,000 or 100,000 people investing every single year 50 or 100,000 pounds into the system. This is something which we could, maybe with some different rules, do in Austria. That's what I'm always saying. Just go out there and copy what other countries are doing. It's not that difficult. But we haven't been able to do that over the last 10 years. So I fear it's not going to happen in the next 2 or 3 too.
Yeah, we will still keep on telling the story and telling how important it is. We also have a current campaign about the Beteiligungsfreibetrag, which are also tax incentives for angel investors. And I'm so happy for the day when we have an overload on angel investors and don't know where to put them, basically. I think then, Karina, you and me will have like the hands full of work, but that's going to be a really great thing. Yeah. And yeah, maybe going deeper also in syndication. Petra, Felix, or maybe Petra first. Do you have syndicate in your, also bigger syndicate in your cap table?
So we basically have KK Incube, which Karin mentioned before, and yeah, that is has worked out really well. I think what Hansi mentioned is a really good point, that you don't want to have 1 million investors on your cap table. So that is something to consider also from a startup perspective, right? It's nice if you have a lot of people who you can kind of make interested in your idea and who are willing to invest. But then at the end of the day, it's also kind of messy to manage so many different parties. So that's always something to keep in mind.
Yes, also agree. I mean, we have on our cap table, we have a couple of private investors, no syndicates, but I fully agree. Even like in Austria, everything has to be done in front of the notary when you have future capital raises or anything important to decide. And if you have more people on the cap table, it just makes this process of going to the notary and aligning all parties' interests, it makes it exponentially more complicated. So to have a syndicate, for example, for everyone who owns less than, I don't know, let's say 5% or 4%, definitely makes sense. And also, this goes also into what Hansi said with this example from the UK. I think maybe people also a bit underestimate what it means to be a business angel, because just in investing in a couple of random companies, this is actually not kind of how it works. It's I think it's really like, if you're completely new into this field, I think the best thing is really if you go to these pre-seed funds, or if you find like this potential of syndicating with other people who have some expertise in that field, who know some founders, who have worked with some successful entrepreneurs in the past, and understand their positions better and get a better picture of how the industry works, what to look out for, what works, what doesn't work so well, and then slowly get into that field. Otherwise, I would guess the chances to succeed there are definitely quite low.
May I add something to that? I mean, in Austria, the best way of becoming a good business angel and have the experience is go to the AAIA, the Austrian Angel Investors Association, where we are doing workshops for virgin angels. So virgin angels are angels. They have money but no experience, and they want to know what to do with that money and what mistakes to avoid. And we teach them in the AIA how to do that.
Yeah, I think that's really a good point. I think also what we are doing, I don't know if you're doing this as well, but for every startup we send out, we list all the investors who are interested in the startup so that they can form, investing together, or they can become a syndicate. So that's, I think, one thing which is already there and should be used more often. And I think, Karin, I stopped you from saying something.
No, I agree with Hansi that to be member of the AIA is really a good start into the community. Yeah? But of course, also to go to AWS.
Thanks for that, Karin.
And also maybe something to add there. I mean, just one example. My co-founder Gregor and myself. Also, we did in the last 6 months, we did a couple of smaller investments in other education companies, because kind of the education industry or the digital education industry is the one that we feel comfortable with. Also, if you come from I don't know, maybe it's the real estate industry, maybe it's the metal industry, maybe it's whatever type of industry you have worked before, kind of you are comfortable in your industry, find maybe young startup companies, young startups that also work in your industry, where you have the best expertise and know what could work or what could not work. Because for someone who has no clue about the education industry, it will also be kind of difficult for you to find the right company to invest in if you have the opportunity for that.
Yeah, I think that's also exactly where you can add value, and I also often recommend start out as a mentor. You can get to know a startup, you can really help without investing first, and then still think about invest in a company. And I think at the same time it's so helpful for startups, also at still at the idea stage, for example, just getting people in, experienced people who can help you out, and maybe later also becoming an investor.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think we are already on the topic of recommendations. So I would like to ask you to tell us what would you recommend? I mean, we had it already, we heard it, go to AIA.
Go to ABS.
Become a mentor or something. But if each and every one of you could give us advice, and also maybe not only for business angels, but also for startups who are looking for business angels or early stage investments, what should they do? Maybe we start with Karin.
Okay. I would say for both, think big, start small, and scale fast. This is my recommendation.
Nice. Sounds easier maybe than it actually is.
Okay, let's go to Hansi.
So let's talk about 3 categories. First, the Virgin Angels, what you already mentioned. As a Virgin Angel, please don't just go out and do an investment in a startup that has I don't know, the son of a friend or whoever pitched that to you, and you see, wow, that's a cool thing, and that's so much passion, and I really like that, and then you invest your first 50 or 100 or 150,000, and with 99% likelihood this money has gone away. Because business angel, like any other profession, you have to learn how to do it. There are so many mistakes you can avoid if you know how to do it. So go and come to the AIA and go to workshops and learn how to be a business angel. Do at the beginning together with other angel investors, co-investments with small tickets so that you can learn. And only if you really feel well and have done a number of co-investments, you might do a lead investment. Over lead investments, as we have heard today, are quite complicated. If you're already an experienced angel, my advice would be there will be huge opportunities in the next years because digitization has been accelerated a lot. There will be so many tech startups we cannot even imagine now. But times have also changed. The approach of a business angel has to change. Think about syndication, think about investing in venture capital funds and doing some co-investments, or think about investing earlier than before, pre-seed, very early with a high risk, but investing very, very early. So that would be my advice to experienced business angels. Think about your approach in general, because times have changed and are still changing and will change more in the future. And for founders, I mean, I think that's the golden age for founders. Today, founders they do more or less their job, you know. If they have the solution for a problem in a market that is big enough, this is very important. Still, I can see a lot of pitches, a lot of projects where the major rule of any startup has not been followed. The major rule of any startup is look at your market potential. You can have a wonderful solution for a thing, but if the market is small, nobody will give you money. Well, you can get some money from family and friends and maybe from unexperienced business angel, but then nothing else will come. So it is very important to look at the market potential. Find your team. The team should cover the main parts in the company, and you should have kind of a good spirit together, a good mindset together, because this will be your people you will spend the most of your time over the next 5 to 10 years at least, because that's normally what it takes to make a startup successful. But on the other hand, there is so much money out there. Business angels, startups today in Austria have a good choice. 10 years ago, there was just Oliver Holle and myself investing in startups. So it's either Oliver Holle or myself, or we did a co-investment together, Today you can find 50, 100, 150 potential investors. But my main advice to that would be, take care who you take into your company. It's not always about the valuation, it's about the mindset, it's about, do you really think that this person or this institution or this venture capital fund is the right one for you and can help you? And is there a good mindset between you and the investors? That's more important than 10 or 20% more or less valuation. That's it.
Yeah, I agree.
I
Thank
think
you
that was
so
really
much.
insightful.
Yeah, definitely. So maybe, Petra, also your recommendations, for startups who are raising now. Maybe you also have advice for business angels. You never know. Please go ahead.
Yeah, sure. So I will focus on the startups because that's what I know most about. But it kind of goes a little bit into the direction what Hansi mentioned about the international focus and kind of daring to think big from the beginning. So I think still Austrian startups, it has improved, but I think companies still tend to be a bit more conservative here. And, they think in just on a smaller level. They don't really dare maybe from the first moment on to ask for a lot of money, which maybe 5 years ago might have worked, but nowadays really speed counts. So nowadays you really need to look at your international competition and check what are my competitors doing. And then if they have, raised 10 million, if you just raise 2, then probably you're going to have a tough time to compete with them. So I think this is something to really keep in mind. It's great to be capital efficient, and I'm a big fan of that. But at the same time, you have to kind of play on the same playing field as your competition. So yeah, I just think founders or companies should kind of be a bit more daring and think a bit bigger than what they're maybe used to.
Yeah, sounds good. And Felix, your advice or recommendation?
Yeah, one advice I would really give to all business angels or to all people who are generally interested in that field, who have kind of enough money on the bank account to do something with that. And the interest rates are low, so you don't have so many choices. Either you invest in some ETFs or some bank products, or this is something I would really recommend, go to the pre-seed funds or go to also maybe seed Series A funds, give some of the money to these funds. You will get a lot of insights. You will see kind of as a frontliner how they do the due diligence process, what kind of companies they back, what they support, what they don't support. Maybe there's also then an opportunity, if you really like that and you also have the time for that, to do direct investments. And then on the other side, from the founder's perspective, I think first and foremost, find a really significant problem. Don't try to solve a nice to have problem. Find something that is truly a significant problem to companies, to people all over the world. And then also, as Hansi said, find the right team members. I see my co-founder more often than my girlfriend. If we break up, it's also expensive. So you need to be sure that it's the right person, and it's a long-term relationship. And there's also a good theater. If you go to the theater, it can be the best Shakespeare play whatsoever, but it's the actors and the people who are on the stage who give you this experience. And if they do a good job, you can we can even make a not so famous play successful and that people enjoy it.
All right. Karin wants to add something, I guess.
I would like to have a recommendation to the whole population in Austria, because we have a lot of money in the savings accounts, and this is a good basis for investments, and I really think it's important to shift the money from the savings account to other assets, for example, into the startups, and I think this is really important for the Austrian prosperity, and I think that's not in the mind of a lot of people. Saving is for them the only way to save this prosperity, and that's not right.
Yeah, that's right.
May I add one word to what you said, Karin?
Yes, please.
Saving account, well, maybe, but if you replace saving by Stiftungen, you have it.
Yeah. Now, of course, a saving account is not. It's also important too. But not the only one in your life.
Such a huge amount of money in Stiftungen, which is kind of useless for innovation. I mean, it's invested in real estate and things which bring 1% or 0.5% or even less, but it's there, and the people responsible are not willing to take risks, or not even allowed to take risks sometimes. So it has to be a change in law, which would really bring money from the Stiftungen to innovation.
Yeah, I think it's summing it up really well. The money is here, especially in Austria. We just have to deploy it into different asset classes and also to diversify. And I think also a way of diversifying is to invest in startups. And well, I think, Karina, do you still have any points left what you wanted to add?
I think it's really interesting that our guests actually said the contrary, or advised the contrary of what our findings in the reports were. But it's definitely, it was a great discussion, and thank you so much.
Yeah, I also think it was a really great addition to the report. I mean, the report is like based on the numbers of 2021. We are now coming up 2021. So I think it was also really insightful for all of you who were listening, what to do, how to start as an angel investor, and also as a startup, what you should do, how you should present yourself. And I think it was really great discussion, and I was, really happy to have you here as our guests.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we're going back in the studio.
Thank you. Thanks.
Bye.
Have a great day.
All right. Laura, what do you say? What do you think about the discussion? I mean, I found there were some really surprises in there.
Yeah, I also found it really insightful, and I'm also really happy about the choice of the speakers we made, because I think those 4 people are really experienced in especially the Austrian startup scene and could tell us what they think. And you see like the numbers show some tendency, but it's not everything. And I found especially interesting about like the VC fund. We found out like 65% are not investing in VC funds, but maybe that's a trend coming up, and this really could be also change for the 2022 report. And what was your like key takeaway also from our discussion now?
Yeah, I guess also it's going in the same direction, because if you're starting out as a business angel, mostly like Hansi said, you don't have the know-how. It's like a job. You can't just do it on the go. I mean, you can maybe, but if it's going to be really successful, who knows? So you should take it seriously, I guess. Angel investing is something serious, but we also heard it's possible for the majority of the people who want to do it. You can join a syndicate. You don't have to be a lead investor. You can be a co-investor. You can invest in VC funds, and I think that's mainly what business angels out there should do. And of course, we shouldn't forget that maybe also investing in the pre-seed phase is better off than investing in a seed stage, which we found in our report that most of the angels do. Or what do you say? I think it's interesting.
Yeah, I think so as well. And we also see like the investors' life cycle, was Hansi also mentioned. We have like virgin investors, then we have co-investors, we have lead investors, and then the fourth category is the super business angels with like more than 25 startups in their portfolio. And I think this is also good at development, because you can start out unexperienced and you can like choose, add knowledge, add your network, and also you have to get access to deal flow. So please consider not leaving the money in the bank account, and really consider also startup investments for you. And yeah, we are also happy to help you.
Definitely. Always here for you. So if you want to start out, reach out to us. And I think, it was quite an event. We're sitting here for 2 hours. I think it's we can close it, right?
Yeah, and it's also quite hot in here, as you probably might think, the wall. It's getting warm in here, and we're already warmed up, and hopefully you had a really enjoyable session with us and got more insights about angel investing in Austria, what we do, why we do it, and what Austrian angel investors do. And thanks again at this stage to our guest speakers also today. And also a big thanks to Karina of like partnering up with us and helping us to conduct this report. And basically getting us also here and moderating the session today together with me.
Yeah,
it was really nice.
Just say the same. So thank you very much. Our collaboration was exceptional good. And I'm really looking forward to the next report. Hopefully in 2022 latest.
Yeah, but probably it's not going to be digital in 2 years, so we can already get ready for like a bigger celebration for the 2022 report. And we prepared a slide with the QR code for you, so in case you want to download the report right now, just open your mobile phone, scan the code, and download the report. We also will send out the report to everybody who also watching it on Eventbrite, is a member of the AWS or the AIA. So, and we will post it on social media. So I guess if you want to read the report, you will have the opportunity to read it.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the report is full of details. We just gave you like a brief overview, I would say. But there are some more facts and figures inside which we didn't present, so it's definitely worth it to have another look in it.
Yeah, so I think that's all from our side. Thank you so much for listening and watching in. We're just happy that we could host such a cool report also in a digital way today. And already looking forward to the 2022 report.
That's right. So Laura and me, we will raise a glass right now. Hopefully you have a nice after work too out there, and all the best. Thank you for watching.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Woo!